Paul Niggebrugge was one of the authors in the 2014 WebBall Hitting Challenge. And just so some of you might know Paul from previous efforts on WebBall. He's been sharing his ideas with us for a number of years now. And truthfully, he's been running the Be Your Best Academy in Delaware since before WebBall began. So your background as a teaching professional in baseball is deep. So much so that a couple years ago you won the Teaching Professional of the Year award at the ABCA, which is, I guess I'm personally kind of proud of the fact that the first two guys to win that were both authors on WebBall. So that's kind of nice for me to see. You've spoken at clinics internationally and state. You've been an educator for years. You're currently a high school coach, and as I understand it, a fairly winning high school coach. If you want to throw that in right now, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm on a high. We just won the state championship for the 4th time, and we're very proud. We work very hard, and anytime you have a goal and you see the fruits of your labor through hard work and sweat equity, it's very fulfilling and satisfying. So I'm so happy because everybody's happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, that's great to see, Paul. So I guess without further ado, we'll roll into the quote-unquote blind audio portion of this. We'll keep the video rolling we can play it later in the whole process. But I'm speaking now with one of the authors in the 2014 WebBall Hitting Challenge, and I have to say that of all the articles, of the 5 articles in the challenge, this probably surprised me more than any, and it was because this is from a guy who's a longtime baseball coach. All of the authors are experienced coaches and instructors, but you took a very, very different tack than what I would call a inside-the-box traditional thinking. You even leapt beyond what I would consider the normal mental training aspects, and that's what I found fascinating about your article on self-awareness and empowerment. So, I don't want to recap the article verbatim. What I would like to do, though, is get a sense of why you decided to go in this particular direction.
Well, Richard, I think you and I have been around the game for a long, long time. And so that doesn't make me an expert by no means, but it does give me experience to draw from. And so when you asked me to write on behalf of this challenge, what's the most difficult thing to teach about hitting to young kids, I thought to myself, I think there's more of the same to me is not where it's at. And for me, it's really about the player. And so understanding the player more than being concerned with the mechanics, for me, is much more important. And to illustrate that point, this past spring, we had the leading hitter in the state this year, had a phenomenal year. And quite frankly, from a purely mechanical standpoint, he was very inefficient. I think if hitting instructors saw him, they would say to themselves, "Wow, this guy would have trouble playing on my team, let alone being my number 3 hitter, let alone being the best hitter in the state." So I thought to myself, it's really about the ability to release, to be uninhibited, to be spontaneous, to have things natural, to have effortless power. You can only do that when you empower yourself, and as the athlete, you have self-awareness. I find that, and I'm certainly guilty of it as well, that too many coaches, parents, take the approach of a fixation mentality, meaning that you have to fix this, you have to do this, do that. And quite frankly, you interfere with the intuitiveness and the spontaneity and the natural sequence of things with the athlete. So I'm a big proponent that we have to empower the batter in this case. And so I want them to feel that they are responsible and accountable for what happens to them, their actions, their thoughts, etc. You know, the obvious of I've got to get a hit. If I don't get a hit, I'm going to get benched. If I don't get a hit, I'm below 350. All of those things interfere with the magnificence of the body, the wisdom of the body, the sense, as I call it, the sensational body. So for me, the topic is critical. And it's something that I'm obviously very passionate about and thought very long about in terms of how can I share what I feel is the most important, because I think there's too many interferences and distractions with the natural rhythm of the body.
Wow. Like I said, outside the box, taking it away from mechanics, taking it away from, and I'm not knocking any of the authors that you know, everyone chose the category they chose for a reason. Part of this, though, is you're dealing with, I guess, for the most part, players of the high school age. And I guess one of my questions, because we are talking about younger kids, is how far down in age groups, and it's, I guess, possibly individual, but how far down in age groups can you take this sense of self-awareness and empowerment? I mean, do you see this something that kicks in at age, as a teaching task for the coach, that kicks in at age 12, age 10, age 15, age 8? Where would you like to see it happen? And I guess the logical answer would be, well, age 8, age 7. You know, you want to get this stuff going as soon as you can. But realistically, where does it work?
Okay, you said the magical word for me, realistically. Whatever I believe, I have tested. In other words, it has to work between the lines. It can't work in theory. I love theory. I love the research, best practices, systems, teachers, coaches. I love all that stuff. I dive deep into that stuff. But if it doesn't transfer between the two white lines, it matters not. So when I share this with you and you ask me the question, what age is appropriate, where do you start? For me, it's a mindset. It's an absolute way to do things. I train the Academia Delaware Warriors BBA. It's a developmental team, and it ranges from 9 years old through 16 years old.
Okay.
And I can tell you this, it's so important with the younger kids. It's more important with the younger kids because you have to have a good foundation. It's not something that you introduce to them and expect them to get it. It's a process like anything else in life. It's a process that must be worked on. But I can tell you this, we have something called mind-body scan, mind-body connection, where it involves the brain, breathing, and the body. And basically, we start off every training session, every game, with a 10 to 15 minute, some people call it meditation, some people call it relaxing the mind, mindfulness, whatever you want to term it, whatever you want to call it. But I did it at the high school level, and I did it with the developmental team. And the kids at 8 years old, 9 years old, absolutely loved it and craved it. How wonderful is that? You know, when we get involved in pressure situations and game-like things, things speed up. We have to slow down. We have to be able to control our mind, our body, have self-control before we can have any impact or influence on performance. So the point I'm trying to make is that we did this, and the kids absolutely loved it. They craved it. They wanted it at the youngest age through my high school, and you know how important it is at the elite levels.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that, you know, honestly, I've done this, I guess it's similar, take a different approach, but I've been around the block a few times and I've picked up a lot of these ideas along the way, too. And I found that sometimes, honestly, the younger ages are maybe more willing to be open and try things. And sometimes you get into that late teenage mindset and they don't want to try anything that doesn't seem like throwing the ball, catching the ball, and hitting the ball. They don't want to get into the whole self-awareness stuff as readily. There's a certain age group that just is more willing to, and it's also the mindset of the coaches. that you might be working with, and the players too. So it's intriguing to me the way you approach this in your article is on the assumption that it's doable. There's a belief system within you, I guess, too, that if you want the belief system in your players, you have to believe that it is possible at these ages for this to happen.
I have no doubt. I mean, I understand kids. I understand kids. I have 6 kids of my own, and I've been an educator, and so I understand kids. So it's not a question of whether it's doable. I think you hit it again. It's your belief system. If you have doubt, if you're approaching this topic or whatever philosophy you believe in with skepticism, or you're not fully committed, your players know that right away. My situation was, I introduced it to them. I said, I'd like you to try something. Lie down, pretend that the sun is coming in, shining into your face. Lie down, relax, and that's energy. It's bringing you energy. They absolutely fell in love with it. Now, I will say this. 18 players, 2 players had a difficult time with it. They didn't like it. They questioned it. And instead of me getting upset with their questioning, I valued their opinions. I said, you know what? This is not for everyone, but I will share this, that it has worked at the very highest levels. So what I'd like you to do is just try. If you feel that it doesn't work for you, that's okay. I'll try to give you some other approaches, or maybe some other thoughts, or maybe focusing more on your breath, or focusing on what you want to do, whatever the case may be. What I found, though, the 2 players that had difficulties with it had also difficulties controlling their emotions, and had difficulties overcommitting, offensively, or whatever skill we're talking about in baseball. But they were the ones that had difficulties. They finally, I said, listen, try it and do it. You got to give it a shot before you can say you don't like it or you can't do it. They gave it a shot, and sure enough, they started doing. They felt more comfortable, and they experienced great success. In fact, one of the young men won the state championship. He threw a shutout and battled, and he probably wouldn't have been able to do that if he didn't understand the concept of mindfulness and being able to control his energy, his emotions that just fly off the handle sometimes.
How does a coach acquire the knowledge to work into a system like this? And the obvious answer is, well, you go to the people that know how to do it. You go to the people that have done it before. But how much when you did it, if you can remember when you did this kind of thing and you tried it and you said, hey, let's try something different the first time, were you feeling properly prepared? How nervous were you about this? I know it's a belief system too, right, that you can do this. And was there that hesitation on your part?
Anytime I pick something up from you, from others, I always try it. And I have to feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And not, so I felt comfortable with it. So for me, it wasn't a matter of being nervous presenting it to my players. It was more of, okay, how can I present it and approach it such that they will be receptive to it? So my focus was not on me and knowing the material. It was more about, okay, then how can I get them to grasp it naturally without me pounding it into them or talking down to them? Because my belief is very, very firm. I believe that we must be open to receive and play in possibilities. So things can't be scripted. Life and baseball games are just too situational. You can't script it. So I don't want to be stymied by pounding things in their heads. I want them to be open. I want them to accept. I want them to play with freedom and for all the things that we had previously discussed. So for me, it's not about so much doing it perfect or the coach knowing all of the answers. It's simply trying to allow them to feel the moment, to be present, to be here now. Because I really believe that fear, doubt, and confusion are all an issue of being in the wrong time zone.
I really appreciate you doing this hitting challenge article, and we'll do more in the future. We absolutely will, Paul. So thank you very much.
Count on it. I appreciate it. Enjoy the day.